There is something about the Promised Neverland ending that makes me feel weird. For the longest time I couldn't connect with any characters that were introduced. In tandem with Kaio Shirai's, for the most part, individualistic storytelling, it meant that only Emma could make any genuine connection with them, which in turn resulted in me feeling sick of her blind optimism and her hope for a peaceful resolution to everything, even if I admire and want to share her values. Maybe this was due to the oversaturation of her presence throughout the story, with no side characters of much importance to balance it out. Maybe it's the lack of challenge she and her flock of sheep has faced since Gracefield. Maybe it just feels less clever now that conflict is solved by use of firearms instead of, mind games. It seems bizarre that in my head, when I hear The Promised Neverland, I still want to say, oh yeah, it's one of the best series in recent Shonen Jump, even if my positive feelings about it mostly end with the Gracefield arc. To be fair, I do want to say that upon reading through this series again, I've found it much better in bulk than week to week. But as I've said on Manga Mosaic before, I think I'm more of a binge reader in general. And it's true, I can't deny how enjoyable the Gracefield arc was to read, but looking back on it, I have to stress that it was a very faulty Act 1 to the series. Out of the 7 major characters that were introduced, 2 seemingly didn't survive it, 2 were severely underdeveloped and were never important again. 1 got left behind, and 1, Ray, culminated his character arc so early on that he was functionally a non-entity throughout the rest of the story. This left only Emma for us to latch on to, and to be honest, she's not a character that evolves a lot later. Rather, she becomes this beacon of hope to one character, and then another, and always closing this distance between her and the other characters the same way. You could say that she does this over and over again, while all I want to do is meet her other friends. And yet, Emma and her tedious flock of sheep notwithstanding, I felt an emotional connection there with the last few chapters that I can't adequately justify. Like 5 years ago, if someone showed me Emma's speech to Peter Archery, I would have called it pretentious and moved on with my life. Now I can't see it as that. I felt a raw, visceral reaction to the world turning rotten, and as it does, you can't do anything and it's frustrating and there's really no pretense about it. I felt like I was able to get something out of my mind that I repressed for a long time. And for how I very often feel like I'm surrounded by people trying to be Emma, being like, oh, hold tight, we'll survive, we will get through this. The ending of The Promised Neverland feels very validating in defiance of that. It very much feels like Kaio Shirai is like, yeah, there is more than a small chance that you won't survive this, that you'll be dead. This world is headed to shit and you can't escape it. In fact, this world is probably worse than you see in this series. You see some hope? Well, sucks to be you. It'll probably be a decade or more before we'll get our shit together. Now, at the same time, I realize that Shirai and Demizu didn't intend that to come across as that, since they do leave the kids with a happy ending, and I don't blame them for it. First of all, it's Shonen Jump, and second of all, yeah, they do deserve it, and I don't think it mars this connection for me. The absurdity of some of the things that happen, because, yeah, they are quite absurd, like the demons unanimously agreeing to not eat meat and to eliminate the farms, and with no opposition whatsoever. Well, it's too removed from reality to bother me about being in a conflict with this kind of message. And now that I think about it, it kind of works in favor of it, as paradoxically the world where the demons have farms of humans that they breed them to eat is kind of the escapist one, instead of the one the kids are trying to go to. And I still think that the price Emma had to pay was, even though it all ended well, it was thematically appropriate to this connection I found. The world may get better, but you won't be here to see it. Anyway, this is completely absurd, but here's some hope. Enjoy it while it lasts.
That was very nicely put. And you guys thought we couldn't get Hideaway Rambles onto the main Hideaway.